I'm finally coming out of the closet. I watch anime.
そそるぜこれは
So if you're, under a rock or something, anime is Japanese cartoons. And to most Western viewers, cartoons are meant for kids. However, I'm here to present my case for why I think it's okay. Oh, it's okay to watch anime. And you're gonna listen, and you're gonna agree, and I don't really care what you think, so. Anime and people who watch it are generally made fun of where I live, which is the United States. And that interested me a lot. Like, why is it that anime is kind of cast out in the US and places outside of areas around Japan? At least, I don't know if people get made fun of for watching anime in Japan. But I think overall people have grown more tolerant of it. They don't really care as much. But there is still hate towards it. And with the amount of hate that it does get, the only way I can see it is that some anime fans they're kind of weird.
To them, they probably thought I was just moving out of the way, but I was actually setting up to where their blind spot was. If he had gone on me, I was planning to go in completely, drop the sword down, and then completely cut him, completely gape him open. The sad truth is that they weren't even a challenge. I already had a full 5-stage plan ready to take everyone out. And anybody else who got involved, just in case. That's just the way I do things. This is about what you saw on the train. It's folded, tempered, and it does its job. My family couldn't handle me. I had a surprisingly strange affinity for sharp objects, particularly kitchen knives.
So you just bend your body forward and then extend your arms to 30-degree angle, 30 degrees, and then you start running.
That's a reason why people hate on it so much, because they think, oh, if you watch anime, you're this, right? That's you. I'm talking about all these examples because I don't really want to chalk it up to xenophobia. Another thing is that, as shown recently with Parasite, international media can be accepted by the general public. Like, Parasite was fucking incredible, and no, not the anime. But it received the recognition it deserved, on the international stage. Like, it showed that people can understand the U.S. isn't the only country that makes media, basically. And I think that anime should get the same treatment as Parasite did. I think that if an anime is really spectacular, it should be eligible to win an Oscar. I really do. It just makes sense. But as I mentioned earlier, anime is a cartoon, and cartoons are for little kids. So if you ask me why I watch anime, the most concrete answer I can come up with is that, as a fantasy fan, it's the best medium in which fantasy is expressed. Like, I've really always liked reading. I love Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, The Witcher, Lord of the Rings. These are really good series that have, really good backstories, really intricate details. And the reason why, despite how fantastically series are, how unrealistic they are, they're viable in our brain because the brain's painting the image. Our brain has all the events of the book in the same sphere. So what happens in the book is possible because it's not from the world, it's from the book. The book's not, it's not real. Like, our brain knows that. But the issue is that when books are translated into movies, there's a pretty big disconnect between how your brain imagined the events of the book and how it's portrayed on screen. This can either be a welcome surprise or the usual complete disappointment. I mean, even in original shows where, you know, the disappointment of adapting a book, I know what's real and what's not. Like, despite how good special effects have become, if I know that something's impossible in our realm of understanding, like shooting fire out of someone's hand, then my brain's just gonna look at this guy shooting fire like that's not a thing. So getting to the point, anime is completely contained. Like, just like when reading, everything that's unrealistic is happening in a sphere that's not ours. Like, it's drawn and it's not filmed. It's not people in it. They're drawn people. So your brain's like, yeah, what's happening is possible because my world doesn't look like that. My world's not animated. When you're looking at a live action, it's like, that's my world. Why is he able to run on the side of the building? So yeah, so in a nutshell, anime makes the impossible look possible. And live action stuff doesn't, really. Well, you may be like, yeah, but there are Western animations too. Yeah, there are. Like, animation's pretty good, but it doesn't even scratch the surface of what anime has accomplished. Like, anime has shows about teenagers at school. There's straight up there's people fighting in a video game. There's a lot of shows about people fighting, actually, but each of them have their own unique way of telling the story. And the stories that span anime can be as interesting as, you know, as a book, pretty much. And what do you get coming from the West, coming from Western animation? You get fucking Disney princesses. You have Cartoon Network shows for kids. Like, how can you even ask me why I, like, as somebody who likes escapism and who doesn't always want to play video games all the time, why would I rather watch a well-made animation that deals on, you know, more mature things versus a kids show or really, really bad special effects? And before you ask, yeah, there are anime shows made for kids. Pokemon and Beyblade are two of them, and they were my absolute jam back in first grade. But the difference is that unlike Western animation, you know, there are shows for more mature audiences. There are shows for adolescents, adults. They're called, you know, there's shonen, which is for younger kids, and there's seinen. There's specific genres that are for older kids. There's a distinction. And that's another reason why anime gets such a bad rep, is because in Western culture, animation is for little kids. And only when you're older and have a more mature mind can you watch the live actors, when really, there's a lot of fucked up shit in anime, in the more adult anime. Like, it's pretty bad. I would say that a lot of anime is not suited for kids at all. Like, maybe even the majority is not, you know, kids should not be watching anime. But there is, you know, a separate section for kids. Going on more about the disconnect, live actors. So Hollywood, Hollywood. I don't hate the West, okay? I really like movies. Like, movies are really good. Like, there are good movies. And there are also good Western TV shows, just as long as they're not, you know, butchering my favorite books or basing too heavily on fantasy. Like, I'm not saying that these shows can't be good. Like, The Witcher was pretty good. It wasn't anything special, but it was pretty good for what it had. And it was based very heavily in fantasy. So there you go. That's my example. You can't tell me I'm biased. Anyway, live actors. I think live actors create a huge disconnect. I'm gonna be upfront. You know, when you're just chilling and watching a movie, and then, you know, Dwayne The Rock Johnson just comes out of nowhere. Like, the guy's in every single movie, and it's gotten to the point where you don't even feel like he's a character in the movie. Like, that's an issue. Like, anime doesn't have that problem because everything's drawn. Voice actors can create a little bit of a disconnect sometimes, but normally everything is fine. You feel like everything's normal. You normally can't even tell it's the same voice actor unless you Google it. So the idea of adapting fantasy, it happens a lot. Books get made into movies. You got the Harry Potter movies. You got the the Percy Jackson movies. And the same is true for anime. But the difference is that the drawings and how the characters look are actually in the source material. It's called manga, if you didn't know. And it's much easier to translate manga into anime. You know, you're translating pictures into moving pictures, but for books, you're translating stationary words into visuals, and you know, you might not be following exactly what the author is visualizing, and the audience too had their own preconceptions of what characters looked like. I'm not here to debate the fact that anime is perfect. I think that there are a lot of flaws. I think there's a lot of terrible shows. I think there's a lot of terrible anime. I just wanted to give my take on it being, you know, better in the West for what we have fantasy, because, you know, there's less of a disconnect. And I think that it should be treated like any other TV show, that it should be eligible for certain awards, that it shouldn't be shunned. And, you know, the only people, in the end, the only people who get hurt by the stigma against anime are those who actually, you know, think that it's true and never watch, because there really are a lot of gems out there in anime. And if you're a fantasy lover at all, you will find an anime you enjoy. And even if you're not, there's so many so many genres. Like, anime is not one genre. It's a really bad preconception that people have about anime, is that, oh, it's one fighting man, kid punches guy and he dies. That's just I need to finish this video. How do I finish this?